Hi, my name is Karima and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the process of selecting a GRC tool. This video is going to be for enterprise risk managers, cyber risk managers, anyone that has a need for implementing a GRC tool. This video is going to give you some points to consider when you're in the market for a GRC tool, and it will serve as guidance or things to consider when you're in the process. So the first thing to consider is the purpose of the tool. Why do you want to bring the tool in the first place? Do you want to improve your risk visibility? Do you want to have better visibility of your compliance position? Is it for risk reporting? What reason do you want to bring in the tool in the first place? So the first thing you need to do is sit down as an organization and understand the individual features that you'd like to have. So list out the different things you need to do now and then also in the future. So the purpose of doing this is to make sure that before you start engaging with vendors, you have a strong understanding of the specific outcomes that you're looking to achieve by bringing in the tool. So sort them into must-have features and then also have some it would be nice to have. So just so you're clear if you need to compromise in the future. You're clear on what exactly you need for sure, and then what other things you would like to add on if possible. Next, you need to look at your current practices. So look at your current processes, look at your current workflows. What specifically do you do? So what are your main activities? And then again, have that long-term view of, in 5 to 10 years, we also want to do this. So when you're considering like the different features and you're documenting the features you'd like to have before you go to market, you have an understanding as to what you'd like the tool to automate or take off of your hands in terms of things you need to do by way of risk management. The next thing to do is to consider your current technology stack. So have a look at what you have in-house already and have a look at vendors that are compatible with what you already have. So you don't want to implement a tool in isolation. So something that doesn't work with anything else. So for example, your ticketing system, you want to make sure that it's something that's compatible with what you already have, but then also scalable. So something that, let's say you have 100 users currently, when you have 1,000, you can still use it. When you have 10,000 users, you can still have it. You don't want it to be a case whereby you implement a tool, it takes you like 6 to 12 months to implement, and then you're able to use it for a year or two, and then the business grows, so it ends up being obsolete. Next, the next area to consider is the cost of installation and maintenance. So when you're in the market for a new tool, you need to consider the availability of engineers, for example. So some vendors have a vast pool of engineers that are able to both install and then maintain tools on an ongoing basis because the skill set is highly available in the market. However, if you pick a tool that is more niche and there are not too many engineers, then long term you might struggle in terms of maintaining the tool. You need to understand the responsibilities associated with owning the tool as well. So how often does it need to be upgraded? Is it once a year? Is it twice? Is it more than that? And then also, what is the cost associated? So will you be able to have an in-house engineer that you can hire? Is that financially sensible for your organization? Alternatively, licensing, so the costs for individual users and then the cost of the software itself. How much is that going to cost the organization? Again, when you have 100 users, when you have tens of thousands of users, is it going to be financially feasible to have the tool on an ongoing basis? And what does it actually take to maintain the tool? Do you also need to build internal processes to support that? Do you have the budget for that? Another massive consideration is the compatibility with your existing technology stack. So in an ideal world, you'd have a GRC tool that also works well with business intelligence tools. So if you want to do reporting, or alternatively your IT ticketing system or your IT incident management module, those are things that you need to consider. You don't want to buy a tool that doesn't work well with anything else or requires expensive connectors, because that can get quite costly. Like if you want to ingest things into the GRC tool and then have the data go back out. Those are the things that contribute to high costs of maintenance. So that's something to look at as well. And then lastly, can it grow with your organization? So when you have 0 to 100 users, what's the cost? And then if you have 10,000 users, is that something you can cope with? Or if you have hundreds of thousands of records, is that something the tool can cope with without any reduction in performance? So to conclude, do not make this decision in isolation. Engage with the business, engage with your stakeholders. So people that are going to use the tool, people that need to get data from the tool. Avoid making huge decisions before involving people, because across the business, people have access to different types of information. So they may well have something that can help you out. So for example, existing relationships that will reduce the cost of implementation or the cost of licensing, things like that. So make sure you speak to the business, and it's a good way to keep them engaged with any future change or future implementations you want to make. And then I'd also say avoid engaging with vendors until you're crystal clear on what you want. A lot of vendors have so many functionalities that you might not necessarily need, but they'll be keen to sell to you because in the future you might find it useful. But remember to be clear on what you want and to stay focused, and then also understand the difference between an out-the-box feature or functionality that you might want versus one that requires customization, because there's also a lot of the time there's a cost implication. And lastly, I would say give it a lot of time, because implementing a GRC tool takes a lot longer than you'd think. You're not going to be up and running in a month. It's probably going to be 6 to 12 months most of the time. So yeah, give yourself time and give yourself grace to get it done well. That's everything. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.